Hey guys, it's Raythe here, and I am doing another of our Ask Me Anythings, and you guys have sent in some great questions. So let's get started. So Rob P says, "Hi, I'm a recent subscriber. I love and appreciate your interest and subsequent writing in fantasy and gothic horror. It's also great to have fiction or GLBT in general, considering its rarity. It's almost shocking how that can impact you when you find yourself relating to it more than you ever have with literature of primarily heteronormative relationships. So again, thank you. I wanted to ask about your creative process. Do you imagine things in your mind and tend to flow stream of consciousness? Maybe you have an outline overall with chapter outlines that you use to guide you. Thanks." This is actually a question I've been asked before, which is always a good one. And I love talking about my writing process because I'm constantly refining it. I've been writing on the site for, as you guys know, 9 years. So that's like 3-4 chapters a week, every week for 9 years. I don't know how long that is, how many chapters that is. But anyway, what I genuinely do is once I'm involved in the story, it is all stream of consciousness. There is no outline. I sometimes don't even know what I'm going to write when I sit down to write the chapter. I actually have a chapter tonight for Alvin King's Blade, and I'm really unsure. I have a vague idea of something I feel that, for example, Kieran would want to talk about to the Black Commander, who's being sort of a jerk. But other than that, I have no idea. However, when I start a new story, I do a lot of work, especially around the world building these days, because I found that when I'm doing fantasy worlds such as Raythe Reign, you really need to know sort of like how the society works. And, is there a religion? Like, how is this affected? How do humans react? How do shifters react? And sort of have like a framework that I could hang it off of. And then I also, as you guys know, put forth to you my ideas of how I think the general story is going to go. But if we all remember back, for example, to Raythe Reign, where I said, the general concept is that that Caden is the 9th dragon shifter, and how is this going to impact the world? Think about how much bigger Raythe Reign is than that actual hook. It's just, we're talking about prejudice, we're talking about racism, we're talking about politics, we're talking about, obviously, romance, we're talking about how do you deal with the fact that you're in a new group and you don't know your way forward. So that gives you an idea. I do some really big world building. I have a general idea about the characters. But then after that, I sort of like allow my consciousness, my left brain to go. And also, if I actually was too rigid, I couldn't respond to your guys' comments. One of you actually noted like, "Oh my God, I guess I can tell now that you're following comments because you did exactly what I said." And he's right. I did. He pointed out something that I hadn't considered, and here we go. I realized that I had to address it. So I can't be that rigid. I need to be open to your guys' thoughts because honestly, hive mind is better than a single mind in terms of a story. Okay, so here we go. Lisa asks, "Hi, will you ever be contributing your drawing series? As love that story and would love to know how it goes on." I am not sure what the drawing series is, but I'm going to take a guess and that it's Data Vampire, because that seems to make sense. Yes, I have to draft the manuscript for Volume 3, and also come December, you will be able to purchase Data Vampire 2. There's a PDF or as a Mobi file. Okay, so Keith says, "I think you mentioned once long time ago the possibility of anime or movies based on your books. Is it actually in the works right now or still in the maybe someday I hope distant future?" Anime is way too expensive for us. We could never do it unless we just had millions to burn. And if we did like a GoFundMe, literally you can imagine how expensive it would be. But I never take anything off the table. You know me. Movies, yes. What we want to do is to do 15-minute web series, like to do 4 of them. But that's actually something that I would need to really think about not having a day job to do. We are really a little overwhelmed. I've taken on a lot recently, as you guys probably guess, but truthfully, I really want to do it. I have to educate myself about it. I'd have to see what kind of, how viable is it. We really do plow all the money, most of the money that we get from the site right back into the site. We need to do things that actually are things you guys want and will bring more members in. And I don't know if a web series will, but I really, really want to do it just because it's awesome. Okay, so Evil Cleo says, a while ago, you inquired about unicorns. Whatever came from that discussion? I did not inquire about unicorns. Somebody else inquired about unicorns and really, really wanted unicorn shifters in Dragon's Reign. I actually have a story about unicorns. My father ruined them for me forever. Okay, so there was this photographer, and he put together this beautiful coffee table book that showed like blurry horses with horns on their heads going through the forest and everything. And I thought this was real because it looked real. And I took it to my dad and I said, have you seen this? This is so wonderful. And my father basically informed me that no, it was all make believe, that this was, this guy sticking a horn, gluing a horn onto a horse's head and basically taking pictures that made it look like that. But that unicorns were not real. And honestly, from that day to this, because of my shame at believing, I really am not a fan of unicorns. I really am not. Rose Petit Frere, and forgive me if I just mangled your name, I only will beg for one thing, she says, a retelling of the Lightless story, please and thank you. I think Rose and I are the only fans of that story, and she keeps asking, and at some point, if I can justify it, maybe I will, but honestly, it was just a hot mess when I wrote it. So Leisha says, have you ever thought about having Everdark crossover with any of your other stories? Yes. However, I think Winter Haven has taught me something that like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with everything being connected, it's both really fun to find the Easter eggs and to see the crossovers, but it's really limiting and it's hard to keep track of. Now, you guys are very forgiving when I retcon stuff because I simply have to when you've got like 20 stories that are all interconnected over multiple time periods and all this kind of stuff. I mean, Winter Haven is like chock full of these uber powerful men and oh my goodness, they're like a dime a dozen there. So the thing is, I really do want to keep my stories separate unless I'm truly just writing another story, for example, in Everdark about another of the immortals, let's say. Maybe we picked one of those and had a different one, or, if there's werewolves in that, so maybe I do a werewolf story in that. But I really don't want to do a crossover with anything that's existing. And I think I might, if I do any other stories in it, it's going to be very clear that it's in the same universe, but they're not going to be as interconnected. Darkwind says, Raythe, looking back to the stories over time, I can see that the Pact, Sanctuary, Dark Earth, Winter Haven Country Club, and the Fell have all had their crossovers and interactions between characters, which is what we were just talking about. Will we see any crossovers between the Merman series and the other series? The way the current events are heading, it would almost seem like if a realm is threatened, that all the characters would stand up to defend it together from their common enemy. That's actually a really good point. And there has been some crossover with the Merman, but not entirely. And I think the Fell is probably going to be the penultimate story in the Winter Haven universe, so maybe I will have Cthulhu appear or something like that. I don't know. I have, though, the Merman is part of the Winter Haven universe, but it's sort of on its own thing, and they're sort of separated, so maybe they wouldn't be, the people in Immortalis really wouldn't know what's going on in Winter Haven. Okay, so then he or she, I don't actually know, goes on and says, also, have you considered writing another story like The Darkening based on angels and demons? It seems like this story is sort of the standout and would be interesting to see another take of that archetype from a different go than the crime boss style that you had before, not that it wasn't wonderful. Here is something that some of you No, and I think I disappointed a few of you. I hate the Darkening. I do. I know that you guys love it. Some of you who love it. But I was trying to be what I really wasn't. And I'll explain what that is. When I wanted to do sort of like the collars and cuffs and wings and all this stuff that people really, really love, because I thought, surely I can write this because people love it, and I'll just do this. And the problem is that it's just not my bag. It's just not something that interests me. It ends up being sort of a hot mess. Another thing is, and I keep trying to do this and I'm so unsuccessful at it, I cannot make a real dark, older character, like the crime boss type character, the really vicious type character, as the love interest. And I'll tell you why. I think it's awful. I think in reality, like, why would you love somebody who is just unkind, who is cruel, who is violent? And each time I try to do it, I really, really, I don't want to say fail, but I can't seem to do it well. I can't seem to keep it. They all seem to turn into basically like, either they're emotional wrecks or they have to, none of them are able to basically keep that evil glint in their eye. And I think the Darkening was the first case of that. And I really now know that that's just not my bag. That's just not my interest. Like, I told Kat I was going to do this one character and I was going to make him really badass. And I can make characters badass, but I was telling her I was going to make them like, dark and cold and cruel. And she just laughed and rolled her eyes. And she was right. I couldn't do it because I couldn't fall in love with someone like that.
When was that?
That was actually something that's special coming up that we're not going to talk about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's right. I do remember that.
So will I go back and write an Angel Demon one? If I had a really brilliant idea, or if you guys really had a brilliant idea and there was an overwhelming desire for it, then of course I'll always consider it. If you think about it, the Venn diagram, there's a circle of things that I like. There's a circle of things that you like. There's a circle of things that there could be a good story on. And where that hits is where I need to write. And the Darkening was not it. And therefore I think I'm leery of taking on another project like that because I want to give you my best. I don't want to give you anything that's half-assed. Okay, so Andrea writes, number 1, do you have any tips and advice for new writers? I actually do. I have a bunch of them because honestly, as I said, I'm constantly learning myself about my writing process. And I think that that's something to always keep in mind, is that we are constantly learning, and that writing, I said, is as much of an art as it is honestly a science, in terms of like, you need to do it. You need to continue to do it to get better. I would recommend that you do take some classes. Now, I've had brilliant writing teachers and I've had crap writing teachers. And the thing is, what's interesting is that genre fiction, which is what I write, that's really not taken seriously. And a lot of the teachers are writing literary fiction. And that is like, that's a totally different animal. But there are basics of plot arcs, and there are things that you should learn about. And there are books out there that will sort of teach you more about genre fiction, but I really think it's good for you actually to have somebody who can look at your work and talk to you about it. So you really can get that feedback, because a lot of times readers can tell you what they feel, but they don't know what's actually wrong and why something isn't working. Although you guys are pretty good at that, but still, it's good to have that basis. And another thing is, you have to understand that you cannot wait to write something if you're truly going to be writing as a profession when you feel like it. If you're going to truly get better at it, you have to do it. You will get better at it as you go along. And I think you can see that in my own writing, those of you who have been here from the beginning, and there are tons of you, which is so amazing, because when I look back my earlier stories, I cringe a little bit, even though I did my best. And I think that at least the characters came across well. But yeah, so you need someone to critique you that knows what they're talking about. You need to learn about the basics of plot and character, and you really need to just simply write every day. All right. 2, The Unnamed One plays an important role in a good portion of your books. Can you do a profile or background book or something about his origins or how he became interested in Earth? I actually don't want to do that. The mystery, well, not the Unnamed One, is part of his allure, but you will actually learn his reasoning for what he's done this entire time with Ulrich and everything in the Fell. You will find out. And I think it will be both interesting because it's both very simple, but if you think about who he is, it'll make sense. And it will also make, in some ways, it will give everyone what they want, and it will be at a great cost, as one always knows. Anyway, but remember, I like happy ever after, so don't worry about that. Okay, 3. When is the website going to be updated? We ask that every single day. No, Jeremy and Sophia are really hard at work creating the new website. What happened was that let's put it this way. The technology we were using, they had put something together and then it had to be upgraded, and then all the work that had been done had to basically be trashed. So they're starting again, and I'm asking them to do this sort of on their limited free time to sort of put it together. But it's coming along, and it's going to be very beautiful. It's going to be very cool. When it comes online, you will not have all the features yet that we hope. We're going to be adding something in called Jom Social, which hopefully will give you opportunities to do a lot of fun and neat stuff with each other, with me, with the artists, that sort of thing. So we'll go from there. But it's coming. When we come closer to it, I'm going to give you a lot more information because it's going to be different. It's going to work the same, but it's going to look different, and we want you to be comfortable with how it works and how it looks. 4, have you considered including mpreg into a story? Oh, this is the perennial question. No, there will be no mpreg stories. I totally understand that for some people, this is the best kink ever, but for me, it's just not sexy. But I understand for people it is, and don't feel judged. But you will just never see an mpreg story from me. 5, would you ever do a book on something like Mother Earth, seasonal spirits, and the like? I don't know. That's not enough to really give me an idea for a story. It sounds a lot like a lot of these animes where there's Gaia and there's all this kind of stuff. I'd have to think about it. Maybe. 6, are you ever going to revisit the Drakon characters? This, like the Darkening, is problematic. I do love Drakon, and there was a lot of humor in there, but there was a lot of stuff that I feel very dissatisfied with. And I think revisiting something when you're dissatisfied with it is a danger for me because, as you all know, I like to suddenly rewrite. And I think I would probably redo that entire book. I think it would drive me absolutely crazy to go back and have those characters again when I feel that the original story could be so much better. Will we have other dragon shifters? Absolutely. As you know, Raythe Reign is probably one of the most popular stories on the site. So absolutely. But I don't think I'd go back to visit Drakon. Okay, so those are the questions I've gotten so far. I really cannot wait to hear more from you guys. I'm so excited for what's coming up. We have so much to share with you, from new projects to new manga coming out to new stories. And as always, I have to tell you, just as a thank you in general, writing is probably the hardest thing I do. But it's all made worth it when I see your comments, when I read your emails, and all that kind of stuff. And just to share my worlds with you, they've really become our worlds. They're not just mine, is the best job in the universe. In any event, thank you so much. Please feel free to leave comments and questions below, and I'll answer those as well. Take care. Bye.